When it comes to government waste, there perhaps is no greater example of your tax dollars being flushed, say for the military and those five-figure toilet seats, than health care, and in this specific case, Medicare. Focus in on something called the Recovery Audit Contractor Program. Over $2 billion in improper payments, and taxpayers shockingly, being left in the dark. Only one person can explain it all. She is the Vice President of Policy and Communications for Citizens Against Government Waste. Welcome Paige back to the Hard Line. Leslie, here we go. And I'm going to let you really explain a lot of this because I see, and I guarantee you, there's probably not one person who understands what the RAC is and why it all figures into this. Tell us about it.
Well, it's called the RAC program, and it stands for the Recovery Audit Contracting Program. And let's give you the headline first, which is that the RAC program is the most effective tool that taxpayers have ever had in the history of oversight, in my opinion, and in many other people's opinions, to identify and recover government waste, which now has a term of art of its own, which is improper payments. You've heard me talk about it. I'm sure you've heard others talk about it for a long time. We now measure what we call improper payments across all agencies. We do this because we've passed laws that mandate it, and this will come as no shock to your viewers. Medicare, Medicaid, and the Earned Income Tax Credit, for example, are the top three drivers of improper payments in the federal government, which, by the way, are on the rise. They rose $19 billion in 1 year, from $105 billion to $127 billion between 2013 and 2014. And that is any kind of payment that should not have been made. Undocumented. It does include fraud. In other words, not all improper payments are fraud, but fraud is certainly a subset of improper payments. All right, so that's our context. Over at Medicare, which is, of course, as you can imagine, the largest driver of improper payments in the federal government, we have now something called the RAC program, Recovery Audit Contracting, and it's a very big plus. It is, Medicare cannot look at all of its claims before they pay them. There are just too many. There are billions of claims that come into Medicare every day. So what they do now is they go ahead and they pay those claims, and then afterward, they do what they call a post-payment audit.
Wait a minute, I'm going to stop you right there for 1 second. Don't look at the claims. Let's make that very clear. They're paying out on things that they don't even look at, don't even see, have no idea whether or not they're being fleeced.
Correct. And just to give you a little example, I know we don't want to be too heavy on our statistics here, but Medicare manually only looks at 0.3% of the claims. Okay, 0.3% of the claims are reviewed at all. I'm talking about total, okay, pre or post. So what they do is they depend on these post-payment auditors to help them identify where they've made mistakes, where providers have sent in claims that are erroneous, where they've coded them incorrectly, or in this case, medical necessity. Was the service that was provided to the beneficiary, was it the proper service, or did it break CMS's rules? So what we have is bunches of post-payment auditors. I think CMS employs about 5 or 6 now of these contractors, all of which are paid by federal taxpayer dollars, except one. Recovery Audit Contracting is paid on a contingency. This is private sector auditors that come in and review the claims that they're allowed to review. CMS is in control of that system. And they get paid out of what they recover. They are the only post-payment auditor that is allowed to recover the money, and that is the key to their success.
Okay, then let me stop you here then for a moment. I got about a minute left, minute 15, so let me get this in there. The GAO reported that improper payments rose by $19 billion. You talked about that briefly, between 2013 and 2014. What the taxpayer wants to know right now is all this waste that you and I are talking about, is the RAC putting the fear of God in some people, and are they actually being successful in getting money back?
Yes and no. They are extremely successful when they are allowed to operate at full capacity. CMS has started to sideline the program, not surprisingly. Guess why? Because providers, particularly hospitals, are not happy about having auditors come in after the fact, tell them that they received money they shouldn't have gotten. In last year's case, it was $2.6 billion in improper payments were identified in the Medicare fee-for-service side, and $1.6 billion was recovered by RACs. And they're operating at very low capacity right now because CMS has sort of sidelined them. they've kind of lowered their volume. They've told them they can't look at as many claims, that they can't go after as much waste. And Congress is collaborating with this.
Ah, wait a minute.
No
there's
mistake.
there's the magic word right there. Congressional
Yes.
collaboration in order to continue to allow
Correct.
the waste to continue to flow
Correct.
out there and not to come back in. We are all out of time,
Correct.
but I'll tell you what you have done right now is you've opened a door here for a lot of people to see that, yes, there is somebody actually out there in a group that is out there trying to get your money back. But there it is, congressional capitulation. Again, we're right back to the same thing again.
And
Listen,
frustrating.
People, you need to go. Learn about this and a whole lot more. The wasting moments, if you will, because this is huge, the amount of money in here. And remember, it's Medicare again, which we need to save. Go to cagw.org. Check it out there. And Leslie will bring us in on a whole lot more of this as the weeks go by. Leslie Paige, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again real soon. Stay with us. The fastest 60 minutes of news, The Hard Line, reveals a whole lot more as we continue.